What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 185. Thank you for your patience. We have our guest tonight streaming live from Hawaii, and we've had guests from Hawaii before, and we know that the Wi-Fi tends to not be great there, so we managed to make things work. John Kelly, the extraordinary runner and triathlete and adventurer that recently completed the Barkley marathons, will be joining us from Hawaii because he just completed the Kona Ironman. I can't wait to talk to him all about it because he crushed it. And I want to kind of figure out what it takes to go from something like the Barkley to something like Kona within the same year. So we have John Kelly from Hawaii. I'm hoping that the video and audio are good. So I'm going to make sure that the live chat room just let us know how that goes. And of course, right before we went live, our poor dog is he peed on the carpet, and Kim is having to clean it just off camera. So Kim is here. She will be joining us in just a second, but she's currently dealing with a bit of chaos in the house. But that's exactly what makes this show great. Welcome, everyone, to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 185, featuring John Kelly. This will be a lot of fun. Here we go. We do have two John Kellys on today's show. For those of you who just mentioned, we have two John Kellys. For those watching, yeah, we have two because we worked out a little system with our guest tonight, our very special guest, John Kelly, live from Hawaii. He has one signal that's giving him audio and another one that's giving him video. We're making it work because he's coming to us live from Hawaii, and that's pretty awesome. So we do technically have two John Kelly icons down below, but only one John Kelly, the person. Welcome, everyone, to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 185. Dealt with a little bit of technical difficulties before the show, but we got them sorted, hopefully. And our guest tonight is an incredible runner, adventurer, ultra runner, and triathlete. This year alone has done some incredible things, including finishing the Barkley, was the sole finisher of the Barkley this year, and then somehow transitioned from doing something like the Barkley to training and executing Ironman Kona this weekend, which is bonkers. And I'm going to pick his brain to figure out what it takes to do both of those events in the same year, how the training is different, how he managed to crush Kona this last weekend. And we're going to get into it with our guest tonight, John Kelly. Before we do, Kim is here. Kim is currently just cleaning a little mess that Gus left just off camera, which is a wonderful way to start the show. But she will be joining us here in just a second. So the chat room, I have my eye on the chat room, but she'll come in, and any questions that you have throughout the show, of course, just keep them coming. And as she joins the show, she'll be able to grab those and pull them aside as well. I want to make sure that we thank our premier Patreon supporters, of course, for the month of October. We have three, and they're awesome for supporting the show and making sure that we happen week after week. They're longtime viewers and supporters of everything Ginger Runner, which I think is fantastic. Brian Sands, who you've come to know week after week, has been training and ran his very first marathon on October 8th, the Chicago Marathon, and we got to kind of follow the whole process. It was awesome, and he managed to complete it. He crushed it, and big thanks to Brian Sands for continuing to support. Rick Bjarnason has been a new supporter at this level for October, and he runs cheekymonkey.ca. It's a design web service, and he's also an ultra runner. Last year, he was not able to complete the Fat Dog 120, and he decided, this is it. This is the year I'm going to train and get my ass back to Fat Dog and crush it. So we're kind of following along with his journey, and we'll be talking more about him in the coming weeks and his journey to Fat Dog. And also Chris Lee, longtime supporter of Ginger Runner over in Hong Kong, has a really cool organization called Trailblazer, where he's trying to showcase the fact that Hong Kong has some of the most incredible trails in the world, just 15 and 30 minutes outside of Hong Kong. There's a huge community of trail runners there, and Chris Lee's doing a bang-up job, and he's going to be posting a bunch of cool content and updates from the Hong Kong trail scene over on the Patreon Facebook page, so keep your eyes open for that. So big thanks to those three gents for continuing to support the show. Now, let me introduce our guest tonight, all the way from Hawaii. Let's make sure live viewers let us know if the video and the audio, you can hear both of them, because we've got two signals. You can see them down the bottom of the screen there, both separate, but they're basically allowing us to communicate with this guy because it's not the best Wi-Fi where he is, but we're making it work. So without further ado, let me introduce the one, the only, Mr. John Kelly. Yay!
Hey,
how you doing, man?
Good to be back. Doing pretty well.
I was gonna say it's been a while. It's been a couple months.
Yeah, been about, I guess, six or so now. But yeah, hopefully this isn't coming across like a badly dubbed movie with the audio being a bit out of sync with the video. But
our live viewers
it's
will
working.
let us know promptly. But of course, we just got a surprise guest. So thank you, Kim. Kim had to deal with a bit of an emergency off camera. Mr. Gus seems to be retaliating that I haven't been home for the last couple of days. But you are here.
I am here.
It's okay. Everything's handled, and poor Gus, he's totally fine. But John, I'm so excited for you, man. First of all, what was it like recovering from the Barkley? I know we had you on the show after the Barkley, and we talked to you a bit about that, but the weeks and months after that event, how were they? How were they on your body, on recovery and everything?
So the physical part I actually recovered from pretty quickly. The mental component took a bit longer, and it was kind of a two-step process. There was the just recovering mentally from the race itself, as far as the fatigue and the exhaustion and all of that goes, and catching up on life. You know, when I was out there in the woods for 60 hours, life kept going, so I had to catch back up on all that. And then the second step was really just getting motivated again. To me, Barkley was kind of my Super Bowl, and you win the Super Bowl, and then what do? Where's the fire to get you back out there to really get
Totally.
back at it the way you were beforehand? So that took me, that second portion took me probably at least 2 or 3 months. And even then, you know, I still don't know that I ever fully got the Barkley level of fire back, but I at least got myself motivated to get in some good training for a little bit going into Kona.
I mean, I know, I can imagine that some training for something like the Barkley and the number of times that you attempted before you finished it. So there's probably already that mental side of you want to get it done. You have that fire, that passion for something like the Barkley. Do you have that same sort of passion and fire just in general for triathlons? Is that like part of your experience with that genre of racing?
Not quite the same. So Barkley was very meaningful to me, not only for the challenge, but my personal connection to the course and the race itself. Triathlon, really, it's kind of one of those deals. Qualifying for Kona was the big goal for me, and this summer, trying to kind of frame what my goal was here. You know, it's not realistic for me to say, oh, I'm going to go win Kona. So, you know, what kind of was the level I was shooting for, and yeah, I really kind of bared down on that at the end, but it's not quite the same as Barkley, for sure.
Got it. Now, there's already a ton of questions, and this is something I definitely wanted to start the conversation with. Is training for Barkley, I can imagine, is one thing, and I can't really imagine a more opposite style of training than for something like Ironman. What are the major differences for you, or at least in your training plan, and what are maybe some similarities? I'm really curious about this and how you would go from one to the other.
So it's actually quite similar. I kind of, the past couple of years, I've adapted my triathlon training strategy from my ultra running strategy, as far as when I do what types of intensity and what types of duration. The one thing that really throws things off is the swimming, which I've gotten things down to a science where I can get in my weekday miles as my commute. I can get in weekend miles really early in the morning. For Barkley training, that works great. For triathlon, run, and bike training, that works great. But swimming, I have to actually, I can't, you know, swim to work, unfortunately. So that's a lot more of a disruption. And I guess the other big difference is just finding the balance between which of the three I'm going to focus on. I enjoy the running and the biking by far the most, and those also give you the biggest return. You know, proportionally, the swimming is an hour, the biking is 5 hours, the run is 3 hours when you look at top Ironman times. So, you can go from a good to a great swimmer and save 10 minutes, which is huge when you're at the top. But at the same time, you can go from a good to a great biker and save an hour. That's something I've really had to deal with balancing is kind of my enjoyment of each of the three versus the return that I'll get from any of the three training from them. Because I'm definitely hitting the point of diminishing returns on the bike and the run, but I'm still not very good at swimming.
I'm a total gear junkie. I'm the type of person that, I love shoes and I love bikes and I love all the gear that goes into these things. Something like Barkley, I don't really care about the gear because a part of me is like, it's gear that's going to help you survive, and it's like essential gear there. With triathlon, gear can make a difference, especially if you're competing at the level that you are, where a bike with more aerodynamic frame can probably shave actual time off your event. Do you take that into consideration? Are you the type of person that gets into the gear to the point where you are looking for those micro savings and to try to do that sort of thing? And does that carry over at all into the ultra side for you?
So I'm an engineer by background, so I'm definitely always trying to optimize things, and that is a huge part of triathlon. It's honestly not a part of it that I really enjoy, but you can't fight the physics, and the faster bikes and the faster components, they go faster. And so I'm fortunate to have built up to the point where I'm on a team and I have some sponsor support to be able to do a lot of that. But it's a spendy sport, and doing a lot of that, if you don't have, requires a rather large investment into it between the bike and all of the bike equipment and or swim skin for a race like Kona where wetsuits aren't legal.
It's crazy. Like, the equipment is just one of those things. I can geek out about it, but I'm also so priced out of the top tier stuff that I'm like, oh, if only I could get a tri bike. I want to ride a tri bike around town.
But even our road bikes are pricey, and they're not.
And they're
like,
over
great.
Close. Yeah. If you guys go to John's Instagram or check out some of his photos in his feed, you'll see his bike, and it is a thing of beauty. It's a felt, right? It's a full-on felt bike. I have a felt bike, but mine's like a baby micro John Kelly version. Is that new this year?
Yeah, it's a felt frame set that I got through our team, and I've built it out with components mostly through other team sponsors. But yeah, I love it. It's incredible to ride, and kind of looking at some of these things, a lot of people in triathlon get this equipment, I think, just because they like to say that they have the equipment.
Yeah.
But it does matter at the front. It's the same thing in a marathon. If you're running a 3:30 marathon and you shave off 2 minutes, big deal. If you're running a 2:05 marathon and Nike, or 2:04 or whatever, and Nike makes you souped up, super expensive custom shoes that save off 30 seconds, that's enormous. So I actually missed my age group podium on Saturday by 1 minute and 40 seconds over a 9-hour race, and so that's
unbelievable.
I missed out on the fruit bowl, but that's how it goes.
And I want to get to that in a second, because I know, having read a little bit of your race report and knowing just kind of where you placed in each of the disciplines, I know that we can talk a little bit about that. Of course, Kim is here, and Kim has been scouring the chat room while thinking of cleaning up Pete, because that's apparently what happened just before the show.
I also have lasagna in the oven right now, so I'm also worried about that right now.
But let's get to some live questions, because of course we are a live show.
Yeah, I am trying to still catch up and pull some of the questions out. But there was a question earlier, and I didn't pull the name, but there was somebody in the chat room asking John, what was your qualifying race for Kona?
Yes, because obviously Kona.
Or what is the system behind how you get into?
Yeah, we're into triathlon. We love watching and cheering people on. I'm very unfamiliar. I know that Kona is obviously the world championships, but I'm very unfamiliar with the process of what it really takes to get in. Can you kind of walk us through that and how you did it?
Yeah, and it's quite different from say qualifying for Boston. And I'm not a huge fan of how qualifying works, but there's not a lot that can be done about it at the moment, at least. It's at each Ironman race, and it has to be Ironman branded, unfortunately. They allot a certain number of qualifying spots per age group, and the number of spots per age group are based purely on the number of people competing in your age group. So
Okay.
it's quantity, not quality. You could be in an age group with 300 people, none of which are fast, and you'd be great. Or you could be in an age group where there's 10 people and 2 of them are former Olympians, and game over.
Yeah.
So I did Ironman Maryland last year, and I finished second overall and was also second in my age group. So that was my qualifying race. The person who finished third place, 40 seconds behind me, if he had been in my age group, he wouldn't have gotten a spot, despite finishing third overall in the race. So it can lead to some rough things like that, but that's how it is at the moment.
I remember hearing, I think that story is not uncommon. I feel like we follow a number of athletes online who have been placed out simply because of 40 seconds off of a single place in one race made them ineligible because they didn't place via the age group or that sort of standings. Really interesting sort of things like that. When you did finish second overall, second in your age group, did you have the plan to go to Kona? Was Kona kind of, this is my goal, I want to go do Kona?
Yeah, that was kind of my big goal in triathlon. I felt like that was kind of the peak of what I could aim for. And so Kona was definitely kind of the primary goal. The reach goal was to win overall at that race, which
Right.
I thought I did for 20 minutes. I came across the line and they announced, John Kelly, your first overall male. And then 20 minutes later, this guy came across and beat me on the chip time.
Oh,
And
yeah. Okay.
it happens. The most frustrating thing about missing the podium 2 days ago, that same guy is the guy that beat me by a minute 42. And so, super nice guy.
Yeah, right. Do you know where he lives? Do you know his social security number? What do we need to do, John?
Should I send Gus over to pee in his house?
Yes, that would be perfect.
That'll do it.
I'm super curious how this race played out for you. I don't know. I'm a terrible swimmer. I can't swim, I think is a better way to put it.
And there's people in the chat room talking about John's swim time and placement as well.
Yeah, and that's what I think, just knowing your swim and where you placed, but how you were able to recover from that, I think is one of the most impressive things. Can you talk a little bit about how your race played out and kind of walk us through the process of how you ended up crushing it, to be honest?
So the swim was, it's brutal. So the swim start at Kona is a mass start from the water. So everyone is out there bunched at the starting line, treading water, like kicking each other, packed in like sardines. And then the gun goes off and everyone moves off in a pack. And for the first quarter of the race, at least, of the swim leg, it is just bodies on bodies. I could not take a stroke and actually have it go through the water without it, ending up on someone's back or leg or whatnot. At one point, someone's stroke came over, put me in a headlock, and pushed me backwards.
Ugh.
Another,
that's my swimming nightmare,
I was
John.
gonna say,
That is my nightmare.
Terrifying for you, right?
Yeah, but the game is just avoid getting kicked and elbowed in the face, and try to move forward with the pack. So that plus I was getting some pretty awful armpit chafage from my swim skin in the salt water. And that starts happening in the first 10 minutes. And you're like, I got another hour of this. Awesome.
Oh, God.
So I thought I was going faster than I did on the swim. In all the thrashing, my watch got stopped, so I had no feedback on pace. And I came out, so like I said, I was 3 or 4 minutes slower than I thought I was going and what I was aiming to go. but I'm very used to that in triathlons at this point.
Yeah.
And that's when I come out of the water, that's kind of when my race starts. And I start passing all of the, senior citizens that beat me out of the water. So the bike was good. I maybe went out a little bit too conservative.
Before we get to the bike,
but
you came out of the water in what place?
I think it was 858, 850 something.
Okay, I just want people to make sure they remember that. 858-ish place overall. That's crazy. Okay, we'll keep going.
Yeah, so the bike, everyone had told me, oh, people just go way too hard at the beginning of Kona on the bike. They kill themselves. And so I took it kind of conservative starting out, maybe a bit too conservative. So I've really learned to, based on my power meter this year, and power was really low, but I was going at a pretty good pace. So I kept at it, and I had a pretty consistent bike leg. In hindsight now, of course, thinking maybe I could have picked up another minute 40 there, but came off of it and was ready to run. And that's kind of, again, my normal triathlon strategy is don't completely lose on the swim, get myself in position on the bike, and then try to pick people off on the run. And so that's what it came down to.
With the bike, I'm fascinated by this because a bike seems to be I've done biking in the past. Cycling was one of my first and favorite long distance events, but tell us a little bit about just energy efficiency on a bike, how specifically tri bikes are designed, how you try to ride the bike, and specifically at Kona. Is your job to stay at a certain threshold, a certain heart rate area? Are you just looking to cruise at a certain speed? And how does Kona differ from the other triathlons that you've done? Because you crushed it on the bike.
So I don't use heart rate really for anything other than kind of looking at occasionally and saying, oh, that's neat. So I've got a power meter on the bike that is kind of your main feedback on effort, because based on wind and hills and whatnot, you can't really go by speed. So basically you kind of have the power level you expect for the race, and then you'll increase that slightly going uphill and decrease it going downhill, and then trying to stay in as aerodynamic of a position as possible, because you can't draft in triathlon the way that you can in like the Tour de France, where they have pelotons and chase groups and whatnot. And so that's a huge deal, is what kind of aerodynamic position you can stay in, and also makes a huge deal the people who don't pay attention to the length they're supposed to keep. There's quite a bit of draft cheating that kind of goes on. It's impossible to monitor an entire 112 mile bike course.
Right.
But this one wasn't nearly. There were definitely some people that I saw doing that, whether intentionally or not. I don't know, but it wasn't as bad as some of the other races I've seen it at.
Yeah, we've talked about that. I think every time we watch Ironman Kona, we always try to sit there and judge. We're couch judges. We're like, oh, that guy's drafting. You can totally tell he's drafting, and then he never gets called out. And I know that's one of the specific rules of Ironman that helps keep it individual.
And it is unbelievable how much it helps. Like if you haven't felt it before yourself on a bike, it's just incredible. I mean, it's almost worse than, depending obviously on how much you cut, but worse than cutting the course, worse than doping. I mean, it just saves so much effort.
Time and effort, right? Yeah. We have tons of live questions, and Kim has been pulling them aside. So let's get to some of those, and then we'll move into the run, because that's what I'm most excited to talk about.
There's a question from Donnie in the chat room just in regards to your swimming. Donnie asked, was the majority of your swim training done in open water or pool?
Pool. So there's unfortunately not really anywhere good to do open water training near where I live. I think I would enjoy that much more, actually. Training in a pool is miserable to me. It's staring at a black line constantly, trying not to suffocate. when I was out here the few days before the race, and I was swimming in like the Hawaii water here, and I could look down and see sea turtles and fish and coral reefs and everything. That was kind of cool. But yeah, I don't really get any of that back where I live.
That's crazy. I mean, because what you just described as your swim start, one, is terrifying to me. Just knowing that it's so crowded and you can't actually. Oh, the
sorry.
lasagna's on. Just knowing that you can't actually get a good stroke in and you can't get good flow.
And I feel like we've seen people come out of the water with like
bloody noses and black
and
eyes and all sorts of stuff like that. So to train in the pool where you're not really getting any of like the waves, the current, the sea life, the other people. You've done open water swims before? Is that kind of what prepared you for this, or was it really just an overall overwhelming experience?
I've really never done one that was this crowded, and I've never done one in the ocean, actually. All my other races have been in rivers or in lakes. So the rough water was different. But I mean, if anything, I think that is more of a, or less of a disadvantage to the good swimmers, because it does mess up your perfect form. I don't have perfect form to begin with, and I also don't have to worry about doing the little flip turns that I'm awful at.
Right.
So I enjoy it much more than the pool.
Kim.
Yeah, question from Nathaniel. John, how do you view aid stations as opposed to transitions? Transition seems more nerve-wracking as it's a quick in and out. So how do you handle your the transition areas?
Yeah, so I've gotten that down pretty well, and it is a bit, kind of ensure you're trying to do everything quickly but not leave anything behind. The one thing, getting onto the bike out of the swim, so typically I leave my shoes clipped into the pedals and do what's called a flying mount. And no matter how many times I do that, and basically what it is, you're pushing your bike along and you do a little shuffle step, and then you hop over the saddle and land on top of your bike and slip your feet in, and you're good to go. No matter how many times I do that, it's terrifying. I'm scared that like my leg is going to clip my water bottle, or I'm going to miss the saddle and just bust my tail there coming out of transition. But yeah, with enough practice, I feel like for the most part I've got that down pretty well. But it's definitely a different feeling than aid stations, because you can't really go back and get more of what you need, or just wait for the next one.
Right. I mean, I know that there's just so much prep that goes involved as far as like making sure everything's laid out perfectly. So when you get in there, the time has to be as efficient as possible. You grab your belt or whatever you have. And what you just described, the bike mounting, every time I see that, I'm like, oh, I want to practice that. And then when I go out to maybe, it's not like I'm ever going to do it in real life, because every time I practice it, I feel like I'm going to lose my junk. I feel like it's just good. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
I feel like for a guy, it's dangerous. Do you get that fear at all? Like this, is it an actual thing that guys have to worry about?
I'm more just scared of missing the saddle altogether.
Oh God, that'd be even worse.
or again, not getting my knee all the way over it and just kind of hitting the bike and falling over. But my other transition secret weapon I should mention is in T2, the bike to run transition. A lot of people have the little elastic shoelaces and whatnot to get their shoes on quickly. I just leave my shoes laced, and I have one of those shoe horns, dress shoe store, and just
Perfect.
squat right down, and I'm off.
It probably saves a couple of seconds, but a couple of seconds can make all the difference, as you've proven and told us. Before we get to the run, my question.
Yeah, just because we're talking about the transition area. Kimosabi75 asked, question for John: What do you have in your special needs bag? You just mentioned the shoehorn was one of your items.
I have never used my special needs bag. I generally put a few nutrition items in there just in case something goes wrong. Generally on the bike, put an extra tube and CO2 canister in there in case I've like double flatted somehow. But I've never stopped and gotten it at any Ironman I've done. And I mean, to me, it's special needs if there are special circumstances, which fortunately I haven't had.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I feel like that brings up another 10 questions in my mind, because there's so many things about Ironman, so many little facets and details I'm really curious about. But I really want to talk about the run. So to me, I know John Kelly as a runner purely because of where we met was at the Barkley. And well, that's not even a running event as much as it is a survival event. But I always just imagine John Kelly as a runner, and knowing that he has this triathlon background is like, it's amazing. So the run for you, John, did you have a goal going into it of a set time or a set pace? Were you on par for that just based off of your morning? And when you finally got into the run, was it like, oh yeah, I'm going to be able to do really well? Or did you just crush your run more than you thought you would? Because basically what I'm trying to get to is John had the fastest marathon amateur time at Kona, which is the world championship. So this is a big deal. I'm really curious, John, how that all played out for you.
So I had kind of goal times in mind, but I never, for something like this, stick to paces too stringently. It's mostly perceived effort, because you never know how you're going to feel coming off the bike. You never know what the weather conditions are going to be, what the terrain is going to be like. So being able to keep that consistent effort level is the most important thing. And so going into this, I thought I'll shoot for 250. That would be awesome. At Maryland last year, I ran a 252, I think. That course is much flatter. It was much, much, much cooler. So those were big factors. And kind of coming off the bike then, seeing where my time was, I thought, okay, something like a 250 could move me up into the top 10 overall.
For sure.
And it would have. Top 10 amateur overall. Mm-hmm. And so I started off kind of aiming for that. And then as I really got into the run and felt how absolutely miserably hot and humid it was, I was like, okay, I think a 255 would probably be pretty solid. That would maybe still give me a chance. And I held that until around mile 18 or 19, which is, the course is basically a short out and back one way, and then a longer out and back another way. And the second piece is this huge highway with no one really out there. And I got to the very end of that, and I was miserable. And it was kind of one of those points where you're at, am I going to be able to hold it together? I don't know. Yeah. What's going to happen here. And I kind of started back, and after a mile or so, I was like, yeah, I can do this. Let's bring it in and see what I've got. And my pace did drop. I think for 4 or 5 miles, it dropped to like a 7:30 pace. Whereas, for a 255, again, I'd been running somewhere in the 645 to 650 range until then. So I did drop off a bit near the end, but held it at 3 hours. I actually, based on my watch, I thought I was sub 3, but oh well. And, I came across the finish line with that time, and my thought was, I can't believe I ran that bad. That's wow. There's no way that's a good time. And then once I saw that it was the top amateur split, I was like, wow, it really was hot out there. I was not the only one. So yeah, it was all about just based on the conditions, maintaining that correct level of effort and dousing myself in water and sponges every single time. Right around that low point, yeah. There was this aid station that had these giant red ice water sponges. And I think I made noises that would be inappropriate for your ship. I put that one in bed.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, we've heard multiple stories from people who we know who have run or done Kona that the heat and the humidity always tend to be a factor, but they always talk about how you never know until you've done it because of the cement and the concrete and how exposed it is. Like, it just radiates heat out there. So 100 degrees feels like 120, and the heat index is just so high. So a 3-hour 42-second marathon at Kona after 112-mile bike ride. I hope I remember. I got to remember these stats. 112 and a something swim. 3.6?
2.4.
2.4. Well, we're going to say John swam 3.6 miles.
The chat room is like freaking out that that was your marathon time
It's
after
crazy.
doing the bike and the swim.
It's crazy. Fastest amateur split in the marathon. It's insane.
The pro guy that won, he ran like a 2:39 something.
Wow.
That's and you know
record, right? That was the record. That's a new course record.
That was the course record. He broke his own record from last year, so he's incredible. I actually saw him out the week before at one of the spots training, and he's just he's ridiculous. And the pros have a slight advantage in that they start earlier, so off the course a bit earlier in the day before the heat gets to its worst, and they also have their own personal nutrition and hydration out there that they're able to practice with ahead of time and have it ready. But I don't care what advantage you have at 2:39 is insane.
It's insane. I mean, a 3-hour marathon at Kona is insane, dude. And I'm super stoked for you. I think this is awesome. You went from 848th, 58th place or something to what was your final finish place overall?
I think it was 61st, 26th amateur.
That's insane. That's so awesome. And what is it that you're wearing? Is this what you get when you finish Kona, or is this because you placed so high?
No, this is one of my team shirts, and this is the one of the little way things that we get. It's things are called
Kukui nuts, I think.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Good work.
Because of hurt.
So, you know that because I hurt. Yeah, hurt 100.
But I got this and my medal and T-shirt and a hat, and like I said, I was a minute 40 off the fruit bowl, which nice fruit bowl, but so nothing. I didn't get anything special that other finishers don't get. Yeah, and that's you want the hardware, and for something like Barkley, where the entry fee is $1.60, I don't expect hardware. Something like this, it'd be nice, but this might be one of those cases where I make my own little picture frame or something.
Yeah.
To me, like the way that the age groups work, where they divvy it up by just 5 years at a time, it's a lot of luck. It should be like running to me, where it's 39 and under, and then masters and grandmasters. Because personally, I would rather have being able to say fastest amateur marathon split, and I can say, including pros, top 10 American, which that's pretty awesome. Just, neither of those things come with hardware.
Right.
Yeah, so somebody in the chat
Someone
room was
just
just bringing up that
top 10 American.
Top 10 American.
Well, which is fantastic. I mean, if you can do some sort of frame thing, it's totally worth it, because this is a global stage. Some of the best athletes in the world go to Kona to execute their races, and it's so much drama unfolds. Some of the best on both sides, men and women, just go out there and crush it or get blown up. It's insane. This is quite a year for you. I mean, this is a huge year for you. Are you now done? Are you like, I'm relaxing, this is it for the year, or do you have other stuff that you're planning on doing?
So I'm going back to the Lookout Mountain 50 miler in December. Cool. So that'll kind of kick off my ultra season, as I'll swing back to ultras for the winter. And I'm kind of tentatively planning on doing a half iron distance triathlon in Miami, which is it's the USAT National Long Course National Championship this year. And I'm doing that just because doing it would get me a spot on Amateur Team USA next year
Sweet.
for the World
Sweet.
Championship, and that would be really cool to do. But it's not one that I don't think I would need to really buckle down and kill myself to tick that one off.
So you're not done with triathlon by any means. Just because you did Kona and you placed so well, you're not done. You are continuing to do triathlon and going to continue to crush it as an amateur. Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to give it one more year, and like there are a few things that I want to do, and I doubt that I'm not coming back to Kona next year. I doubt that I'll do that again. I have no delusions thinking I'm going to like win Kona. If I could magically swim 20 minutes faster, then yeah, I could aim for that.
Sure.
But I don't have the time to invest in that, the coaching and the training that I would need to do that. And frankly, it's not enjoyable for me. The pool is miserable for me. And it would be a big if for something that would require an entire another year of investment of my prime. And I have a lot of other goals that I want to go for, particularly in ultra running. To this point, I haven't really done any summer ultras because I've been focused on triathlon in the summer.
Right.
So after next year, I'll probably switch to ultras full time. I might do like a duathlon here and there, which wouldn't really impact my ultra training very much, and I could kick the swim to the curb.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned duathlon. That's something that would be up my alley. Biking and running and not having to do any, dying in the water would be great. I'm totally into that.
Yeah, the only issue for me on it seems to be finding ones that are long enough. Most duathlons are like 5K run, 30K bike, 5K run, and my strength is really the extremely long stuff and not being fast, but just maintaining while everyone else kind of dies is really what I do.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got tons of live questions, so I want to make sure we get to some of these. John, we have to congratulate you. One on Barkley. I know we did right after we had you on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We congratulated you on that. But I am currently on tour with a movie about Gary Robbins' attempt at the Barkley, and John plays a role in this movie. We see his finish in the film, and John will actually be at our screening in DC. He's our special guest, which I'm so excited about. So John will be able to relive some of his experience out there. We'll get to see some of it on screen.
I think there's still tickets available for.
DC might be sold out, but if you are in the DC area, or even there are people coming from New York to DC. I mean, the people are coming from all over the East Coast because it's going to be one of our 2 East Coast stops. Check wheredreamsgotodie.com. That's where the tickets are available. I think if there's our tickets, there's going to be 15 tickets at most. But John is our special guest there, and he's going to talk. He's going to answer your questions there because we do a live Q&A after the film, but he'll be able to talk a bit more about his experience. But it's awesome to see John do these sort of things. So a huge congratulations to you, man, for completing Kona at top 10 US overall or amateur overall. And it's awesome, man. It's awesome to see what you're able to do.
Thank you. And I'm definitely looking forward to the showing and seeing the movie. I haven't seen it yet myself, and that's actually, I think, going to be my first day back in DC for like 3 weeks. Because I've had this, and then right as soon as I get home from this, I've got some travel for work that I have to do. So I'll be coming back in to meet you guys there.
One thing that I know that we talked about after Barkley, and we'll get to some live questions here in just a second, but I wanted to make sure I touched on this because I almost forgot. Recovery after Barkley, you talked about, I forget what you call it. We've been emailing back and forth, and you called it something, but the donuts.
The donut chicken thing?
The chicken thing.
Yeah.
But you are not home, so you aren't able to make that. Do you have like a substitute in Hawaii that you've been able to just gorge on, like your recovery treat?
I found this donut shop today that I haven't found a suitable replacement for kind of the Cajun chicken filet that
Cajun chicken and donuts, yeah.
To the crispy bow. But this donut shop I found today is just, I got a red velvet donut that had a deep fried Oreo inside of it, and the size of your head. And so I don't think I'd be able to handle making a chicken sandwich out of those. They're doing quite well on their own. But yeah, we'll grab that crispy bell when I'm back in DC. I'll treat you to the finest cuisine there is.
Yeah. I don't eat meat, but I will gladly eat donuts. We can put a donut in there instead of the meat, so it would be like donut, donut, and donut.
So that's in order to reduce, reuse, recycle, and make sure to use all the parts. There's also the Bo Crispy, which is the Bojangles biscuit with the donut in the middle.
See,
there you go.
See,
that's all you.
This is great, and I've been doing the Ginger Bits episode, so I already promised John. Gary wants me to do it, but I'm going to film John eat his in slow mo. I think we've already agreed on that. But I'm going to have what you just described. I already like it. I'm already in 100%. We have Holly Spitzer in the chat room here. I wanted to point this out, but last night we were in Portland screening Where Dreams Go to Die, and John, you got applause from the audience when you finished in the film. It was a really fun, heartwarming moment when John finishes, and the people watching the movie applaud for John. And in my mind, I'm going, "Oh, I wish John was here." It was really cool, man. People really, really love that you finished this thing after 3 years.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, I can't wait to see it here in a couple weeks.
Go ahead, Kim.
Are you the only Barkley Kona Ironman double?
Great question.
Are you the only one to do the double in
the
same year?
I know that David Horton and Andrew Thompson are into biking a bit. I don't know that any of the other Barkley finishers have ever done triathlons though. So I fully expect I would be the only Barkley Kona.
That's a pretty crazy double to do in the same year.
Crazy double. That's a really unique one too. I feel like Jared Campbell though would be like, I ran 6 Ironmans the same year that I did Barkley. But he's so chill about everything that you just would never know. But yeah, I think John is probably the only person to do that. I don't have that as a fact, but I don't know of any other triathletes that have finished Barkley based off of my research.
It's pretty easy to check. There's only 14 other people that you have to check.
That's true.
All I have to do is just search. But in my research so far, I haven't seen it. So I would say John's the only one, and I think that's baller. It's pretty cool. Let's get to a couple live questions, and then we'll move into the post show with our Patreon supporters. Go ahead.
Sure. There's a question from Jesse in the chat room. What advice do you have for folks who are trying to rekindle the fire to set big goals and get training on track? Wait it out or go through the motions and wait for the spark?
Wow, that's a tough question. That's probably one of the tougher questions I've had because I went through that myself. And so a big part of it, I think, is finding the right goal, finding something that really is kind of personal to you and motivates you, and finding something that's the right level of difficulty. So if you shoot for something that just seems absolutely impossible, you're going to give up and likely quit and lose the motivation. And if it's too easy, it's just not that appealing and motivating. So I think the most important thing is to identify the right goal. And if it takes some time to kind of search for that goal before you really get going, I think that's a good approach.
Sweet.
Question from Nathaniel. John, at any point in Ironman Kona, are you mentally tested like in Barkley?
Great question.
Mentally tested, yes. Like in Barkley, no. It's, in Kona, there in the last 6 miles of the run, it was hot and I was slowing down and I was nauseous and miserable. But I still knew, like, okay, John, you're going to finish this. It's just a matter of, is it going to take you another hour or is it going to take you another hour and 20 minutes?
Right.
Whereas as Barkley, it's, are you going to physically be able to stay awake in order to keep moving another 10 feet forward? And so it's just an entire another level of mental battle in Barkley.
Yeah, I'm glad that Ironman doesn't require you to collect book pages on the run or the bike or something like that. That'd be a whole new, unique experience.
Yeah, and that's the other big difference is Ironman. Really, the two things you have to think about are how fast am I going to go and what am I going to consume? And in Barkley, it's those two things plus what am I going to wear,
Yeah.
which direction do I need to go? There are just these slew of choices that you have to make, and when you get in such a mental fatigued state, it's really difficult to stay on top of all of those.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, having interviewed you and interviewed Gary a number of times, and now on tour with Gary, I've been picking his brain just nonstop about those little minuscule details. And it just, there's so many details to pay attention to when you're out there sleep deprived and exhausted. And yeah, I can imagine there's so many vast differences. I want to point out we have a live chat room, and they are very concerned about the lasagna. Don't be. Kim has stepped and pulled it out of the oven. Kim's on top of it, and it's totally good. We're just a little bit delayed at the top of the show, just getting some audio things worked out, but we got John, luckily. That's why we have two of him. We have one on audio and one on video. We're very lucky that it's actually worked. This has probably been the most solid Hawaii guest that we've had yet, because most times the Wi-Fi in Hawaii is just not the best, because people want to enjoy the island and the life there, and that's totally understandable. But this has probably been the most solid connection that we've had with one of our guests. We have one last question. This comes from Lori Hall. Did you pull any strength from your successful Barkley experience to help you get through the low points during your Ironman experience? Because I know I've seen the footage, I've edited it together. You've had some lows at Barkley before.
Yeah, I think subconsciously, I definitely did. Just having that experience under your belt and knowing that you've been in worse spots and came out of those is huge. And you can definitely tell yourself, oh, I got through this. But again, kind of that experience allowed me to basically just not even question things like, am I going to finish this? Like, that was never a thought that crossed my mind. It was just a thought of, are you going to finish at a 7:30 pace or a 7-minute pace or an 8-minute pace? And so those kind of fine-tuning things are really much more in the moment. And what I'm mostly thinking about is where's the next sponge of ice water that I'm going to be able to dump on my head.
I'm like blown away by this double. I'm so proud of you, John. I think this is awesome. Have you got a chance to talk to your family? I'm assuming you have. Are they proud of you? Is anyone there with you? Are you solo on this trip?
Yeah, so my wife Jessie came in a few days before the race, and we're hanging out here for now a week after the race. And it is our first and probably our last for a while post kids, no kids vacation.
Yeah.
Nice.
Kids are with the grandparents. The two sets of them have tag teamed that while we're away. So,
Sweet.
Yeah, they're talk to them, and yeah, it's incredible to have their support and to be able to do this.
Awesome, man. Again, a huge congratulations on both accomplishments, but just right now, Kona, it's such an incredible performance, especially based off of just how vastly different these two events are. It sounds like the training worked out very, very much in your favor for both of them. I'm really proud of you, man. This is awesome, and especially awesome to have you on the show too. I know it was last minute because I literally drove up from Portland today, got home, and went, we need a guest. And John's like, hey, man, I'm available. I'll make it work. So I'm very gracious for you to do that. If you are watching the show live, or maybe you're listening to the podcast, which hopefully I can update soon when I get a chance, but if you want to come meet John in person, maybe hear a little bit about his Barkley experience or his Ironman experience, come to the Washington, D.C. showing of Where Dreams Go to Die. Gary and I are on tour. We've been talking about John a lot. We're really excited to actually do a show with John in D.C. We'll be doing a big Q&A after the film premieres there. I did not look at exactly how many tickets we have available. I believe there's a handful, if any. It might be sold out, but I'll take a look here and post it in the description of this video. But it's awesome to have John on. And John, can you just remind people where they can find you on social media in case they want to ask some residual questions from afar?
Sure. So my blog is randomforestrunner.com. And from there are links to my Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, which are all the same thing, but Twitter, it's shortened because they don't let your handles be very long. So it's like RNDM Forest Runner on Twitter.
Awesome. I'm confirming we have 13. There's 13 tickets left for DC. That's what I just found out.
So if you guys are on the fence, get off the fence.
I promise you this will sell out before that date. So
it'll probably sell out tonight.
Yeah, every location so far has sold out. Canada's completely sold out. There's only a couple of shows in the US that are still available. DC is one of them. 13 tickets are going to go. As soon as the locals realize it's almost showtime, they're going to tweet and then they're going to be gone. So I encourage you to get those tickets now. Get a chance to meet Gary. I'll be there, and John. Pretty cool, unique experience. Thank you, John Kelly, for joining us on the show. Congratulations
so much,
on Barkley and Kona, man.
Thank you. It was great.
And well, be sure to film John eating his crispy bow in slow-mo for Ginger Bits.
That's going to be the best Ginger Bits ever.
That's all the Ginger Bits is going to be. It's just slow-mo of John eating a crispy bow, because he's earned it. He's surely earned it. And John, if you have maybe 10 more minutes, I'd love to have you join us in the post show. I know we didn't talk about that beforehand, but if you've got a couple more minutes, cool. What we do is I'll email you a new link to join us for the Patreon post show. And for those who are watching live, basically, if you would like to support this show, continue to support the show, much like our top tier Patreon supporters, Chris Lee, Brian Sands, and Bjarnason, Rick Bjarnason. Yeah, just want to make sure. Bjarnason. Those three gentlemen have contributed and kept the show alive through the month of October. But if you'd like to join us in these post shows with our guests, and tonight we get John for a little bit, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you get to join us for the post shows. So it'll be really fun. And tonight we get John. And that link is already posted to the Patreon page. So go check that out now. Otherwise, I'll see you on tour. Hopefully we get to see you guys on tour. We're visiting a bunch of cities here.
We've met a lot of you already.
And a lot of you already. But I leave at 5 in the morning tomorrow to head out. 7 is my flight, but I got to leave by 5.
You should maybe go now.
Okay, I'm going to go now. You eat the lasagna. So yeah, that's going to be really fun for the next couple of weeks, and you'll be able to follow along with the Ginger Bits. We'll be doing some every other day updates, so that should be a lot of fun. Am I forgetting anything?
Nope. I think that's
it.
Head on over to the post show.
Head on over to the post show. We will see you all there, and John will be joining us for a little bit live from Hawaii. We'll make it work. All right, everyone, get out there, train hard, race harder, and party the hardest. I know I am. I appreciate you guys supporting the show, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Ginger Runner.